Good morning, San Bernardino. Welcome to another episode of Everything San Bernardino Real Estate. I'm Robert Carrillo, and with me is the wonderful Yvette Romero. Together, we're here to delve into the exciting world of real estate and connect it to our beautiful city of San Bernardino. How you doing today, Yvette?
I'm doing great, Robert. Excited to be here and explore more about what's happening both in residential and commercial real estate right here in San Bernardino. And of course, our favorite topic, gentrification. How are you doing today?
I'm good. There's a lot of exciting things happening around us. I think it's a great time to be alive. 2024 is going to be a great year. So let's kick things off with a quick update on the residential real estate market. Right? We'll talk about some things generally, nationally, and then we'll tie it into what's happening locally. As we mentioned yesterday, we feel pretty good about the local housing market. Yvette, what are you seeing are the trends and values?
We're seeing a steady appreciation in home values nationally, but I think it's essential for our listeners to understand the local dynamics. The market is like a living organism, always changing and evolving. So if you read the national headlines, always take what you read with a grain of salt. If you're thinking of buying a home, two things to think about. Where are home prices headed and where are mortgage rates headed? Today, the majority of experts are predicting national price or value appreciation in 2024 of 2 to 5%. Locally in San Bernardino, we can expect probably 5 to 10%. On the mortgage side, no one has a crystal ball, but we do know that inflation is easing and that the Federal Reserve is not hiking rates in the near future. So those two facts point to a steady economy and a consistent, if not a slight lowering of interest rates.
Those two things right there, the rising values and the steady to lowering of interest rate means to me that now is a good time to buy, right? Inventory is the number one thing right now. Law of supply and demand, and that's always going to like control things. But as the rates drop, more buyers will enter the market, driving up demand on the already limited supply. And with it, prices will go up. So we already know that values are going up. And if you add lower interest rates to that, those values will even go up faster and more. Now, let's shift gears and talk about the commercial side of things. Right? The four main commercial property types, office, retail, industrial, and multifamily, are the ones that we're going to take a look at. Right? The quick rundown nationally, the office sector continues to struggle. Right? The pandemic's work from home policies have a lot to do with this. But I remember this in New York City back after 9/11, right? So now we're looking over 12, 13 years ago now. The office market was decimated, right? Everybody was leaving Wall Street. And the thing that saved those properties were the conversions from office to multifamily. And I think I see that happening now throughout California. And so I think if you're a creative developer, there are a lot of opportunities, especially given how few, the shortage of housing that we have nationally. And bodes well for our region also is that retail is actually pretty strong, even as some big retailers go by the wayside, right? The big retailers who've declared bankruptcy. Nationally and regionally, the industrial market is still strong, right? We're still on a high from the pandemic. The logistics sector is huge. That last mile distribution center is huge. And there is more activity on the manufacturing side too, right? More companies are building in the US. And so with that, the new development is taking place, right? And then finally, the multifamily sector. And I'd say that regionally, again, the multifamily sector looks strong. With the shortage of housing on the ownership side, folks are turning to renting. And nowadays, right, the rentals have to meet certain standards, even on the affordable housing side. So rents are going to continue to go up regionally, at least 2%. Orange County is going up like 6%. So that's what's happening. But Yvette, what's caught your eye recently?
Well, thanks for asking. I'm always intrigued by how the economy factors into the health of the different commercial real estate sectors.
That project right there, when completed, will change the face of many communities along it. That project alone will probably drive more residents into the region than any other project right now. And that means higher demands for new housing, which means values will go up. If you can, buy land.
Buy land. It's the one thing you can't make more of.
Yep. And actually, speaking of buying, let's move on to the interesting news of the day. What do you got, Yvette?
What can be more interesting than hearing about Beyonce and real estate? There are fewer than 20 homes in the US designed by famed Japanese architect Tadao Ando, and the power couple of Beyonce and Jay-Z now own one of them. They paid $190 million for the Malibu mansion, the highest purchase price ever for a California residence. Here's a caveat. There was a price drop of about $100 million.
Imagine having to tell the owner of that, right, that you're dropping the price by 100 million. But actually, I wonder if that affects the averages, or if those figures, right, that big price drop or that big number, if those get included in calculations that we see. Like, so while that sale does not necessarily impact values throughout the state, right? Let's say for comps purposes, it does add some kind of value. It means that California can't beat that bad if these folks are throwing that kind of money around just to be here.
Do you think Malibu has been gentrified?
That's a perfect segue to our next segment, and that's gentrification. We're always going to talk about gentrification, a topic that I've been familiar with since 1999, when I first experienced the power of gentrification firsthand. Right in 1999, Washington Heights, the same one from Lin Manuel's In the Heights, that was the Washington Heights that was my life. Right, that's where I grew up, born and raised. The 80s and the 90s, particularly, were rough in the Heights. But Columbia University, which had a hospital there, and that's actually where I was born, Columbia Presbyterian, right? And it had its hospital. It's always been there. And now, like in the late 90s, it was starting to flex its real estate landlord muscle. Columbia University is one of the biggest landlords in New York, I think maybe even the country. But anyway, long story short, while I was in college, I got a job that gave me a signing bonus, and I wanted to use that bonus to buy a place, a co-op in my old hood. But I couldn't afford it anymore. By that time, Columbia had been buying up a bunch of other property, and by doing so, they were driving up the rents, values were going up, and so I couldn't afford to buy. By that point, the coffee shops were in, the thrift stores were in, the new restaurants, all of that, all of those things all popped up for the new residents.
And that's where gentrification shows it is a double-edged sword. But you want those nice things, but it sucks when the people who have been there during the bad times can't afford to enjoy those things. You can see that happening in San Bernardino.
Yeah, before people see gentrification, a lot of things need to happen. For one, you need a depressed area, right? That's built into the definition. That means that something had to happen to create that depression. San Bernardino was a booming city at the turn of the 20th century. The railroad was like the main cause of that, right? And of course, there was the post World War II boom that basically the entire United States experienced. It was a great time to be, buying homes, etc. But then came the deindustrialization era, and with it went several industries by the wayside. The disappearance of those industries throughout the country and in places like San Bernardino led to the downfall of these great cities. Couple that with the economic crisis of the 80s, along with the social, or rather with the ill social and housing policies, and of course, drugs, the crack epidemic, and you're left with skeletons of cities. But guess who usually stayed behind in those depressed cities?
Lower income individuals and families, usually Black and brown folk.
That's right. And there's a term for that, white flight. I'd say, based on my studies, that you need white flight to get to the root of gentrification. And that's way before any coffee shop shows.
That's deep stuff right there. Folks, we will continue talking about gentrification. Again, our mission at CGX is to combat gentrification, and we firmly believe that the number one way to combat gentrification is through ownership. That's a wrap for today's episode. We hope you enjoy spending these moments with us, getting insight into the wonderful world of real estate. Robert, any final thoughts?
A couple. First, a big thank you to our audience. We're here to keep you informed, talk about again, real estate. It's not just about transactions. It's about the heartbeat of our community. It's about empowering us so that we can all collectively do more within real estate. It's a call to action. Secondly, right? Leave us a comment, a question, a suggestion, anything you want to talk about, anything in particular that pertains to real estate, let us know. And lastly, if you or someone you know is interested in real estate, whether in buying a home, selling a home, starting a business, buying a commercial property, becoming a real estate agent, becoming a real estate intern, which we're actually starting over here, give us a call. Reach out for a free consultation or stop by our office at 1255 East Highlands right here in San Bernardino, and we're in the community. So with that, thanks for tuning in. We are Carrillo Group CANY, that's CGX, where we do
real estate with purpose.
Nice.